I have been a security observer for the Galactic Council for approximately 7 standard cycles now, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that I have seen every species at their worst. The Krellians when they drink fermented spore juice. The Vothians after a territorial dispute. The hexapods during mating season, which, trust me, nobody wants to witness twice. But humans? Humans were supposed to be the easy assignment. They are small, right? Fragile. Their bones break if you look at them wrong. They need a very specific atmospheric mixture, or they just stop working. They are basically walking biological disasters held together by optimism and whatever that brown liquid is that they consume every morning. So, when Captain Vell ordered me to observe the human outpost on Station Krios, I actually laughed. Me, Torvan of the Third Moon, laughing at an assignment. I thought it would be simple surveillance, maybe filing a few reports about their peculiar habit of forming emotional attachments to small animals, and then back to my quarters for some well-deserved rest. I should have known better. The incident occurred at a place humans call a bar, which is apparently a location where they voluntarily poison themselves in a social setting. The establishment was called Rusty Comet, and it smelled like regret and something the humans referred to as whiskey. I was positioned in the observation alcove, my camouflage field active, watching approximately 30 beings from 6 different species attempting to coexist peacefully. The human in question was named Marcus Holt. Average height for his species, brown hair that looked like it had lost a fight with gravity, and a scar across his left eyebrow that suggested poor life choices. He sat alone at the bar, nursing something amber-colored in a glass, minding his own business. That is when the Thorians walked in. Now, Thorians are what we call an aggressive species. They stand roughly 8 feet tall, have exoskeletons that can deflect plasma rounds, and possess 4 arms that end in claws sharp enough to slice through reinforced steel. They are also, and I mean this with complete scientific objectivity, absolute jerks. There were 3 of them. The leader, a specimen named Croth, scanned the room with his compound eyes and locked onto Marcus. I could see the calculations happening. Thorians have this thing where they need to establish dominance in any new environment, and apparently, the solitary human looked like an easy target. Croth approached the bar, his mandibles clicking in what passes for Thorian laughter. "Human," he said, his translator rendering the words with appropriate contempt. "You sit in my seat." Marcus did not even look up. He took a slow sip of his drink, set the glass down with deliberate care, and said, "That is fascinating, because I have been sitting here for 20 minutes, and you just walked in 30 seconds ago." "Oh no." I leaned forward in my alcove. "Oh no. You do not sass a Thorian. That is like poking a fusion reactor with a stick." Croth's exoskeleton plates shifted, a sign of rising aggression. His companions moved to flank him, effectively boxing Marcus in. "I do not think you understand your situation, soft skin," Croth growled. "Perhaps I should educate you." The entire bar went quiet. Even the hexapod bartender stopped polishing glasses. Everyone knew what came next. The human would apologize, move, probably leave the station on the next transport. That is what prey species do when confronted by apex predators. Marcus finally turned to face Croth. He was smiling. Actually smiling, and not in a friendly way. It was the kind of smile that made my secondary heart skip a beat. "You know what?" Marcus said, his voice perfectly calm. "I have had a really long day. Like, really long. My shift ran 4 hours over because someone, not naming names, decided to reroute the coolant systems without filing the proper documentation. My coffee maker broke this morning, and I just found out my ex-girlfriend is dating a Vothian, which, no offense to Vothians, but seriously?" Croth's mandibles spread wide, revealing rows of serrated teeth. "Your problems are not my concern, human. Move, or I will move you." Marcus stood up slowly, and I noticed something that made my blood run cold. He was not backing away. He was positioning himself, weight balanced, hands loose at his sides. I had seen this stance before, in archived combat footage from Earth. "Here is the thing about humans," Marcus said, still with that terrifying smile, "that you clearly did not research before coming to this station. We are not actually that fragile. That is marketing. We are also incredibly, stupidly, suicidally stubborn. And right now I am deciding whether keeping this seed is worth what happens next." "And what happens next, little human?" Croth leaned in, his breath washing over Marcus in a display of intimidation. Marcus picked up his glass, drained the remaining whiskey, and set it back on the bar with a soft click. I finish my drink. Then we find out exactly how much pressure your exoskeleton can take before it cracks. The first punch happened so fast my recording equipment almost missed it. Marcus moved like physics had personally offended him, and he was filing a complaint through violence. His first strike went straight into the joint between Croth's chest plates, exactly where the exoskeleton segments connected. I heard the crack from across the room. Croth stumbled backward, his mandibles clicking in shock, because apparently nobody had ever hit him there before. Probably because most species value their continued existence. The two flanking Thorians lunged simultaneously, which should have ended the fight immediately. For arms versus 2. 8 feet of armored predator versus 5'10" of questionable human judgment. The math was simple, except Marcus did not do math. He did something the Thorians were completely unprepared for. He went lower instead of backing up, dropping beneath their grasp and driving his elbow into the knee joint of the Thorian on his left. Another crack. The creature howled and collapsed sideways, crashing into a table occupied by 3 very surprised hexapods. "You see," Marcus said, breathing hard but still somehow maintaining a conversation. "Humans spent thousands of years fighting each other before we even got to space. We got really, really good at it." The third Thorian grabbed him from behind, lifting him off the ground with 2 arms while the other 2 reached for his throat. This was it. This was where the human died, and I would have to file an incident report explaining how I watched a catastrophic diplomatic situation unfold without intervening. But Marcus did not panic. Instead, he threw his head backward, smashing it directly into the Thorian's face. I heard something crunch. The Thorian screamed and dropped him, all 4 hands going to his shattered compound eyes. Also, Marcus continued, landing on his feet like a cat. "Our heads are surprisingly hard. Evolution is weird like that." Croth had recovered now, purple blood leaking from the damaged section of his exoskeleton. His eyes held something I had never seen in a Thorian before. Not anger. Fear. He was actually afraid of this small, damaged, illogical human who should have been dead already. "You dare," Croth hissed, all 4 arms spreading wide in a final threat display. "You dare strike the Thorian elite?" Marcus wiped blood from his lip, his own blood this time, and shrugged. "I dare a lot of things. Poor impulse control. My therapist has opinions about it." Then Croth charged, and the real fight began. What happened next will probably be studied in xenobiology courses for the next century. Marcus did not try to overpower the Thorian. Instead, he used every dirty trick, every underhanded tactic, every single advantage his species had developed during their violent evolutionary history. He went for the eyes. He targeted the joints. When Croth tried to grab him, he bit down on one of the claws. Bit it. With his teeth, the hexapod bartender was screaming something about property damage. The other patrons had formed a circle, some recording on their personal devices, others placing bets. A Vothian near the back was shouting odds in 3 languages. Marcus got thrown across the room twice. He crashed through a chair, bounced off a wall, and came back for more. His shirt was torn, his face was bleeding, and he was laughing. Actually laughing like this was the best evening he had experienced in months. "Come on," he yelled at Croth, gesturing with both hands. "I have got at least 5 more bad decisions in me tonight." That was when something changed in the room. The other species, the ones who had been watching with detached amusement or horror, started to understand. This was not about the seat. This was not about dominance or territory. This was about a human having a bad day and deciding that if the universe wanted to pile on more problems, he would fight the universe itself. Croth made his final mistake. He drew a blade from his belt harness, a curved thing designed for ritual combat. The bar went silent again. Weapons changed everything. This was now a death match. Marcus stopped smiling. His eyes went cold, calculating. "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay." He grabbed a broken chair leg from the debris around him, about 2 feet of solid composite wood. Not a blade. Not even close to a fair match. But humans, I was learning, do not care about fair. The final exchange lasted maybe 10 seconds. Croth slashed. Marcus ducked, stepped inside the Thorian's reach, and brought the chair leg down on the same damaged section of exoskeleton he had hit first. Once, twice, 3 times. Each impact sounded like somebody breaking rocks. Croth went down hard, his blade clattering across the floor. He tried to rise, failed, and finally stayed down, his breathing labored. Marcus stood over him, chest heaving, covered in his own blood and purple Thorian blood, holding his improvised weapon like he was ready for round 2. "Now," he said, his voice perfectly steady despite the circumstances, "I am going to sit back down and order another drink. You are going to leave. We are going to pretend this never happened, because if we file official reports, both our commanding officers will make our lives incredibly unpleasant." "Agreed." Croth managed a weak nod. His companions dragged themselves toward the exit, supporting each other, leaving a trail of purple blood and shattered pride. Marcus returned to his seat at the bar. The hexapod bartender, still shaking, poured him a fresh drink without being asked. The other patrons slowly resumed their conversations, though everyone kept glancing at the human like he was a bomb that might explode again. I sat in my observation alcove, my hands trembling as I compiled my report. Captain Vell was not going to believe this. Command was not going to believe this. But I had the footage, the bioscan readings, the testimony of 30 witnesses. Humans are not fragile. They are terrifying. And the worst part? Marcus finished his drink, left payment on the bar, and walked out like it was just another Tuesday. I am requesting a transfer. So what did you think? Did this story surprise you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this sci-fi story, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe for more mind-blowing science fiction stories every week. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.